Hi, welcome to the quiz. You can answer along on quizalto.com, all for free. The exact URL of this quiz will be in the notes down below. Let's get started, good luck. What does the migration timeline feature in AWS Application Migration Service provide? A visual representation of migration milestones and deadlines. Automated migration of all applications. Real-time server performance metrics. Manual approval for each migration task. The migration timeline feature in AWS Application Migration Service provides a visual representation of migration milestones and deadlines, allowing users to track the progress and stages of their migration projects effectively. Why is it recommended to perform a pre-flight data validation before migrating with AWS Application Migration Service? To verify data integrity and accuracy prior to migration. To speed up the migration process. To delay data replication tasks significantly. To ignore potential data migration blockages. Performing a pre-flight data validation before migrating with AWS Application Migration Service is recommended to verify data integrity and accuracy prior to migration, ensuring a seamless and accurate transfer of data. How does AWS Application Migration Service help in identifying application performance bottlenecks? By providing comprehensive performance monitoring tools. By increasing system latency. By delaying data transfers during migration. By reducing server capacity. AWS Application Migration Service assists in identifying application performance bottlenecks by offering comprehensive performance monitoring tools, enabling users to optimize application performance post-migration. What is a key benefit of using AWS Application Migration Service for application migrations? Increases the likelihood of data loss during migration. Automates the migration process to reduce errors. Delays the migration timeline significantly. Requires significant manual intervention for each application. One of the key benefits of using AWS Application Migration Service is its ability to automate the migration process, reducing the likelihood of errors and ensuring a smoother migration experience. What is the primary objective of the Application Migration Readiness Assessment in AWS Application Migration Service? To evaluate application compatibility with AWS prior to migration. To restrict the types of applications eligible for migration. To increase server performance metrics. To delay the migration process. The primary objective of the Application Migration Readiness Assessment in AWS Application Migration Service is to evaluate application compatibility with AWS prior to migration, identifying any potential issues or incompatibilities for a seamless migration experience. How does AWS Application Migration Service ensure security during the migration process? By encrypting data in transit and at rest. By exposing sensitive data to external sources. By allowing unrestricted access to all users. By storing unencrypted credentials. AWS Application Migration Service ensures security during the migration process by encrypting data both in transit and at rest, maintaining the confidentiality of sensitive information. How does AWS Application Migration Service assist in dependency analysis during the migration process? By migrating all dependencies to AWS automatically. By identifying network dependencies between applications. By relying on user intervention for each dependency. By ignoring dependencies for faster migration. AWS Application Migration Service assists in dependency analysis during the migration process by identifying network dependencies between applications, helping users map out relationships for a smooth migration experience. What is a benefit of using AWS Application Migration Service Connect for application migration projects? Simplifies server deployment processes. Minimizes network latency. Automates the setup of application connections. provides real-time server performance monitoring. AWS Application Migration Service Connect automates the setup of application connections, streamlining the migration process by simplifying and accelerating the configuration of application connections. What is a key advantage of using AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server Reverse Sync for migration projects? Ensures data consistency between source and target servers. Maximizes server power usage. Optimizes server cooling efficiency. Monitors network latency continuously. AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server Reverse Sync ensures data consistency between source and target servers during migration projects, synchronizing data to avoid discrepancies and ensuring an accurate data transition process. What is the primary benefit of using AWS Application Migration Service Agentless Application Discovery Service? Improves server cooling efficiency. Optimizes server CPU usage. Reduces network bandwidth consumption. Minimizes manual effort in discovering on-premises applications. AWS Application Migration Service Agentless Application Discovery Service minimizes manual effort in discovering on-premises applications by automatically scanning server configurations for application information. Why is network performance monitoring important during the migration process with AWS Application Migration Service? To ensure optimal performance and troubleshoot issues promptly. To ignore potential network dependencies. To delay server replication tasks. To increase network latency. Network performance monitoring is important during the migration process with AWS Application Migration Service to ensure optimal performance, troubleshoot issues promptly, and maintain network stability throughout the migration. What is a key feature of the AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server Data Encryption capability? Optimizes server disk space. Automates server power management. Secures data during replication processes. Monitors server CPU temperature. The AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server Data Encryption capability secures data during replication processes, ensuring data integrity and confidentiality during migration projects. Which feature of AWS Application Migration Service helps in reducing migration risks? Migration security scanning. Migration cost estimation. Migration performance monitoring. Migration readiness assessment. The Migration Readiness Assessment feature in AWS Application Migration Service helps in reducing migration risks by assessing the readiness and compatibility of applications before migration, mitigating potential issues. What is the primary function of the AWS Application Migration Service Role-Based Access Control feature? Automates server provisioning processes. Optimizes server CPU usage. Manages Docker container deployments. Controls user permissions for migration tasks. The AWS Application Migration Service Role-Based Access Control feature is designed to control user permissions for migration tasks, ensuring secure and controlled access to migration resources and functionalities. What is the main benefit of using AWS Application Migration Service for data migration tasks? Delays the migration timeline significantly. Requires manual intervention for each data transfer. Ensures secure and efficient data migration to the cloud. Increases the complexity of data migration tasks. The main benefit of using AWS Application Migration Service for data migration tasks is ensuring secure and efficient data migration to the cloud, safeguarding data integrity during the migration process. What is the function of the Resource Requirements feature in AWS Application Migration Service? Delays the migration timeline significantly. Ignores resource dependencies during migration. Captures resource dependencies required for migration tasks. Automatically allocates additional resources for migration. The Resource Requirements feature in AWS Application Migration Service captures resource dependencies required for migration tasks, ensuring that all necessary resources are accounted for and migration tasks are executed smoothly. What is a use case for AWS Application Migration Service replication server delays? Scaling server resources dynamically. Minimizing network latency. Controlling the timing of cutover activities. Improving application performance. AWS Application Migration Service replication server delays are used to control the timing of cutover activities, allowing users to schedule migration tasks and coordinate server cutovers according to specific requirements and operational needs. What is a key advantage of using AWS Application Migration Service Connector for Terraform? Optimizes server memory allocation. Automates server patch management. Facilitates migration of Terraform-based workloads to AWS. Monitors server power consumption. The AWS Application Migration Service Connector for Terraform facilitates the migration of Terraform-based workloads to AWS, providing compatibility and integration support for applications running on Terraform environments. What is a benefit of using AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server for near-zero downtime migrations? Ensures continuous data replication during cutover periods. Maximizes server power usage. Monitors network latency continuously. Optimizes server cooling efficiency. For near-zero downtime migrations, AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server ensures continuous data replication during cutover periods, minimizing downtime and ensuring a seamless migration experience. What is a key factor to consider when using AWS Application Migration Service Replication for server migration projects? Bandwidth utilization for data replication. Frequency of server reboots. Type of storage used by the servers. Server operating system version. Bandwidth utilization is a key factor to consider when using AWS Application Migration Service Replication for server migration projects, as it directly impacts the speed and efficiency of data replication. What is the primary function of the AWS Application Migration Service Connector for Vagrant? Facilitates migration of Vagrant-based workloads to AWS. Manages Docker container deployments. Optimizes server memory usage. Automates server provisioning processes. The AWS Application Migration Service Connector for Vagrant facilitates the migration of Vagrant-based workloads to AWS, providing compatibility and integration support for applications running in Vagrant environments. What is the significance of the AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server's continuous data replication capability? Reduces network bandwidth requirements. Provides up-to-date data for disaster recovery scenarios. Minimizes server power consumption. Improves server cooling efficiency. Continuous data replication in AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server ensures that data is constantly up to date, making it ideal for disaster recovery scenarios where minimal data loss is critical. What is the primary purpose of the Migration Targets feature in AWS Application Migration Service? Increasing migration complexity by limiting options. Excluding applications from migration tasks. Setting destination environments for migrated applications. Blocking all network traffic during migration. The primary purpose of the Migration Targets feature in AWS Application Migration Service is setting destination environments for migrated applications, ensuring that applications are directed to the correct target environment post-migration. What is a use case for AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server? Data warehousing. Continuous backup and recovery. Real-time data analytics. Disaster recovery. AWS Application Migration Service Replication Server is commonly used for disaster recovery purposes, allowing for continuous replication of servers for failover scenarios. What does the Application Migration Readiness Assessment in AWS Application Migration Service evaluate? Server performance metrics. The compatibility of applications for migration to AWS. Data encryption standards. Predicted network latency values post-migration. The Application Migration Readiness Assessment in AWS Application Migration Service evaluates the compatibility of applications for migration to AWS, identifying any potential issues or incompatibilities before the migration process begins. And that's a wrap. Thanks to everyone who participated. Remember, you can answer along on quizalto.com, where you can keep track of your progress and find much more quizzes. We hope you had a fun and challenging time. Until next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more. Hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as we upload. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts or suggestions, and if you think this video is worth sharing with someone who could benefit from it, please forward a link to them. See you next time. Thanks for watching.